Hi, I'm Clay Birkland, host of the local podcast. On this episode, I'll be talking with Kyle Holt, CEO of the South Dakota Ag Foundation. Tune into the local podcast on the Big 81 this Saturday at 2:05. Welcome to the local podcast. On today's episode, we have Kyle Holt, CEO of the South Dakota Ag Foundation. Kyle, thanks for agreeing to come on.
Thanks, Clay. I appreciate the opportunity to be on.
I happened to be in Pierre last month for the South Dakota Ag Lenders Conference and working with Kyle and some of his staff, and got to talking a little bit, and sounded like something we should learn more about, Kyle. So I guess we'll dial her back and start with the history of the foundation, how it got started, and your role there.
Thanks, Clay. I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about the South Dakota Ag Foundation and how we got started and where we're going. So the Ag Foundation started in 2015, and just like a lot of nonprofits, it started with this idea that there are some challenges that they saw coming for the industry, and started asking the questions that somebody needs to do something, but who's that right person to do it? And so the Ag Foundation was started by a handful of people in the industry. They were seeing some different challenges. The family farms are getting bigger, which means there's fewer family farms, and so I'm the fourth in a family of four. So I grew up on the family farm. That means a lot and is important to me, but there's a little bit of a disconnect for my kids that aren't on the farm every day.
Well, I think it's important that we always remember that is South Dakota's number one industry still by, I've heard the statistic recently, 10, 20 times. So,
Yep.
And yeah, it is changing, but it's still the biggest thing that we do in our state. So supporting that and keeping it healthy and alive is dang sure a great objective.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, and then you see some other challenges with you have kids going back to the family farm from college or tech school, and they might know everything there is about planting beans or growing corn or raising cattle, but agriculture is a very expensive and big business right now, and
yes,
so to be the CEO of a multi-million-dollar operation is a challenge for some of these young producers going back home. So that's a challenge, and then really the big one that was identified is that the average age of the ag producer in the United States, I think, is 58 or 59 years old right now. And so that means there's going to be a massive transition of wealth in the next 10 to 20 years, whether people have a plan for it or not. And so some of those challenges were really what was looked at when the Ag Foundation was getting started. And I think oftentimes when a nonprofit starts, it's always assumed that the solution is an easy one, but I don't really believe it always is. That's why a nonprofit starts, is so that because no one's addressing that situation and finding a solution previous to that. So we're excited about some of the things we're landing on and the direction we're going.
We have some lofty objectives, but you don't just sit down and eat that whale in a couple bites.
That's correct.
A lot of little pieces. What are some of the little pieces that you work on, and how do you reach out and cover those goals?
Sure. So the Ag Foundation started raising funds, as I mentioned, in 2015 when we got started. Around 2018, we started doing some small grant making, and so that meant, FFA, Ag in the Classroom, South Dakota Ag and Rural Leadership, some of those types of organizations that were really starting to nurture that next generation of ag producers and really doing a great job of telling ag stories. So we've started slowly ramped that up as we've gone. I believe this last year we probably have granted out around $150,000 over our lifetime, starting in 2018. So that's something we're always looking to increase. And then the big initiative that we took on just in January is bringing the Keep Farmers Farming program over to the South Dakota Ag Foundation, which we have legacy consultants that sit down at the kitchen table with families that are looking to go through that transition process and just start really just hashing it out, start talking through it so they can come up with a plan and go meet with their attorneys and their bankers and any of their other trusted advisors that they have, but have a good plan and something that everybody's comfortable with moving forward. So that's been a big process and a big undertaking for the Ag Foundation.
That's, from my perspective, quite possibly the most important thing that you're going to do for my life anyway, because I do have a number of customers, and I'm sure not the only banker in South Dakota that has a lot of customers that are.
You're correct. Yeah.
If they're not beginning that transition, they're going to be sooner than they care to acknowledge, and like you say, it's the biggest transfer of wealth we're ever going to see, and it's important that we get it right. So your initiatives that direction are certainly appreciated.
Sure.
Who were the founding fathers, if you will, of the South Dakota Ag Foundation when it came into concept?
Sure. Yep. So it started actually in the Department of Ag at the time. Secretary Lucas Lynch had seen a statute in the South Dakota codified laws that said the Secretary of Agriculture could raise dollars, and I think it was something real vague and real general. It said like for the betterment of agriculture. And so he was talking to a handful of industry insiders. A number of those are still board members for us right now, but really started talking about how they can make a difference and what the best avenue would be to make a difference. And so it actually started in the Department of Ag, but was immediately rolled out of the Department of Ag into a nonprofit. And the reason for that was because they didn't want it to be beholden to the ebbs and flows of politics and government, really. It was best suited as a nonprofit. And a big part of what we're trying to do and what their vision was for it at the time was really to be flexible, and agriculture's changing. If you look at some of the things that we're that are happening in agriculture right now, people are spraying crops with drones. 20 years ago, we would have never guessed that would have been something we're dealing with. And so our goal really is to be flexible and mobile. Just like the ag industry is, and always be able to grow and accommodate it. And so they thought that was best suited outside of government as a nonprofit.
Your current board consists of people, as it should, from the bulk of South Dakota. I don't think I saw any areas on your board membership that were ignored, at least.
That is correct. Yep. We've got a great board. We've got a lot of varying backgrounds on our board. A handful of people out here in West River. Gary Kamak, who I know was a longtime public servant and it was a guest on your podcast here, I believe, not so long ago. Tiff Robertson is another one out here in the Black Hills. That's a part of our board. And then we've got a handful of people from Ag Finance. We've got some producers. We've got a couple young producers coming on board. Janelle Booth with South Dakota Ag and Rural Leadership is their CEO, and she just joined us here just last month. And so we've got a great board with a lot of different background. We have some very good and healthy discussions when we have board meetings and get everyone's perspective. So it's been a good opportunity to work with them, and always a good opportunity to learn from those types of people as well.
Well, if you're going to be tied to agriculture, weather is always a good topic when you have a meeting like that.
Yeah, right.
This summer being no different. We've had
absolutely
areas that are usually wet or dry, and usually dry or wet.
Yep, it's looking like there's going to be some good corn crops out there, but I also know there's some places that got hit pretty good with hail, so it's always a challenge. Nothing's ever perfect in agriculture, unfortunately.
Cattle prices are almost perfect.
Almost,
right now.
That's pretty dang close. That's a good point.
But then the guys are going to feed that corn on the other side of the state. They're going to tell you they cost too much.
That's exactly right.
Perspective is always a killer.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and so on that note, Clay, I would mention one other initiative that we were really excited about. I talked about some of the grant making and how we're slowly trying to increase that, and we recently gave a $20,000 grant to the South Dakota Cattlemen Foundation, who were doing a study on the impacts of red meat in the diet. And so they're actually going out with a third party and having some high-level research done, and we'll get some statistics back on that. So we typically haven't done grants that large, but decided to invest in that mission that they were working on too. So we're really excited about finding new ways like that we can make a high impact.
As a nonprofit organization, I'm assuming you're always looking for funding. How do people help you in that direction?
Absolutely, yeah. I appreciate that question, Clay. A big part of what my job is as the CEO is to continue to make sure that the organization is viable and to reach out to partners and raise those dollars so we can continue to do that important work that we're doing. Right now, the South Dakota Ag Foundation has about $3 million endowed, and we're always looking to grow that and increase that because that allows us to do the work.
Now, is that corporate sponsorships or private funds as well?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of corporate sponsorships. So we're looking at a lot of banks that have been involved in the ag industry or heavily involved in the ag industry, and then a number of other entities, some seed companies, and then some other ag businesses that have been involved in that. And we've also had some very generous individual donors who have really helped the Ag Foundation get started. And so we're continuing to have conversations with people who have supported us in the past, and then also making new partners. I think the work we're doing really tells a good story and benefits the ag industry on a wide scale, and so we've gotten an awful lot of interest in that, and hopefully that support will come along with it.
It appears, and you can certainly flesh out the details for me, like you try to reach out to school age up until, as we've discussed, some of the legacy consulting you're doing. So what other venues are you using to get out in front of people and share the story of agriculture in South Dakota?
Yep. So we've really started telling the story about ag and in the Ag Foundation and doing more radio interviews, just like you and I are doing here today. Alan Hoyer is the gentleman who runs our Keep Farmers Farming program, and Alan tells a great story about the work that he's doing there. And so
it's hard not to have energy when you're around Alan.
It is.
You feel his vibe, and
yes,
he's wanting to lean into the harness and accomplish more.
Yeah, passion would be the word I would
use.
I would use for Alan, and he's very passionate about the work he's doing, and so we've really had Alan go out and speak to a lot of groups. You talked about him being at the Ag Bankers meeting here not so long ago, and so he's done, along with sitting down at the kitchen table, he's done an awful lot of work. Traveling around and meeting with different groups. I know some accountants had him in Sioux Falls a month or two ago. He spoke with some attorneys about some of the work he's doing there, and just really starting to tell that story. And there's some misconceptions, I think, about what role Alan and the Keep Farmers Farming program plays, but we're not competition for attorneys or accountants.
Kind of building the train as you have it rolling down the track, I feel.
We are.
I mean, I don't mean that from a critical standpoint. I mean, you're getting mass going pretty quickly.
we are, yes. Drinking from the fire hose is,
Yes.
is kind of a good way to say that. When you're in our situation and you take on a big initiative like Keep Farmers Farming, you would feel pretty bad about yourselves if there was no interest in it. So it's been a great thing that we've got the level of interest that we have.
Well, I feel fortunate to get any of you guys time.
Yeah.
It feels like you're putting out fires a little bit everywhere.
No, we're happy to do it, and happy to, as we mentioned earlier, find new partners, and I never mind an opportunity to get out to the Black Hills either. So I always appreciate that chance. But it's been a unique opportunity with Alan. He comes with a lot of experience in doing that work. So one of the great things for us from the foundation's perspective is that we didn't come up with this idea of Keep Farmers Farming and then have to build it from the ground up. This was something that came over from First Dakota Bank, and they were doing some of that work on a smaller scale. And now we're really in a position to expand it and to really spread the impact that we can make. And so when that program came over on January 1st, I think we were working with 54 or 55 farm and ranch families, and talking with Alan here on Friday, we are well over 100 farm families now, and so you're looking at 6 or 7 months, we've doubled the impact that we're having there, which is a great feeling, but also a little bit of an overwhelming feeling, just to make sure that we're doing everybody justice and continuing to do that work. So we recently brought on another legacy consultant here just last week to start doing some of that work with Alan, and there's been a few other folks that have talked to us about potentially doing some of that work as well, and that's been one of the really neat things from my perspective doing this job, is that we're looking for high caliber people to help with that work, because it's important. You're sitting down at people's kitchen tables and you're talking about their finances and their family dynamic and life and death issues and their finances and all those different challenges that everybody faces. But to sit there and talk about that with somebody that they don't know that well, we're really looking for high caliber people to go along with Alan and learn from Alan, and then start doing that work, because you can't just send anybody into those situations. And so one of the things that's been really exciting to me is we've had a handful of people who I was familiar with and think very highly of, that have reached out to us and said, this really seems like a cool mission that you guys have. Is there an opportunity for us to be a part of it? So that's been a lot of fun.
That the ripple effect you can have when you're doing things of that nature is just awesome. And one drop in the pond, and that ripple touches a lot of folks. And I think the more the word gets out of what you're doing, you're probably going to need more people to do it.
Yeah, I think that's
correct. For better and not for worse, Kyle.
I think you're correct. I think you're correct. I always tell Alan, I made the mistake of letting you go talk to people about this. Now we've got an awful lot of interest, but it's been great. And really to sit down with those families when they're getting to the point where they're meeting with their bankers and their attorneys, and they're signing those documents, that just that piece that they get from that, and really gives that family the opportunity to move forward, is a really neat thing to be able to be a part of. Very, very rewarding. It's not surprising when you spend some time with Alan why he is so passionate about the work he does.
So I have to ask you an unfair question.
Sure.
You've been in this position for how long?
Just short of a year and a half right now.
And do you have a vision or goals what that's going to look like when you feel like you've done the job you needed to do? Or is it growing and changing every day and still building that airplane as you fly?
Sure. I think that's a good way to put it, building the airplane as you fly. It's always evolving, just like the ag industry is. We always talked about that next generation, and that's really a big part of our mission. And so I think with the Keep Farmers Farming work, we're tackling a big part of that. I would tell you we don't want this to be all we do. I think there's going to be opportunities for us to grow and adapt with the ag industry and find new ways we can be impactful.
The educational outreach, that I think is available could also grow greatly.
Yes.
Because we talk about it all the time. Every generation is another generation away from having their feet in the mud at the feedlot or shoveling grain at the grain bin.
Yeah.
That tells you how old I am. I don't think anybody shovels anymore. we used to.
Yep. I've been there. Yep. Yeah, you're exactly right. There's it's always changing, and I had mentioned I grew up on the family farm. My kids aren't. The family farm is a fun place to go during pheasant season, and a fun place to go and ride in the tractor and the combine during harvest and some of those things, and to help out around there. But it's not their life on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. There's just a little bit of a disconnect there. They certainly appreciate it, and so really those especially those student organizations do such a great job of bringing that to kids who wouldn't otherwise have that connection to it. And you mentioned it, ag is still our number one industry.
Yep.
Whether you live in Sioux Falls or Rapid City or Aberdeen or any of those big towns, it's still our number one industry. It's the thing that drives South Dakota. So it's an important component of everyone's lives here, whether it's something you deal with on a day-to-day basis.
So if people want more information, where do they look? How do they get contact with you?
Yep, we've got a Facebook and a LinkedIn page, and then you can follow us or go to our website at sdagfoundation.org is the best place to track us down. And Alan and my phone number are both on there, and we're happy to chat if there's something we can do to help a family out or anything like that. If you're looking at the Keep Farmers Farming program, we're happy to have that conversation. If you're looking to partner with us or support us, we're also obviously happy to have that conversation as well.
Well, I would advise people not to reach out unless you're serious, because I think you'll get drug along.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the train's moving, that's for sure.
Without getting into too great a detail, I think we've hopefully highlighted quite a little bit about what you're doing today and the direction you want to go. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think, especially when we're talking about Keep Farmers Farming, it's always tough conversations to have if you're a family who's trying to go through that transition or have identified that you need to start having those conversations. And so my recommendation there is to start having it. What do they say about when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? Is today. And so that's kind of that same mentality. It's always good to start early on those conversations, but mostly just get started on it. And if we can be a part of that, we're certainly happy to do that.
Well, I feel fortunate to have been exposed to you guys early enough. I hope we can. It looks like we're going to have a pretty good partnership. Hopefully, as we move forward, it'll be beneficial to a lot of folks we know.
Absolutely. We look forward to working with you.
I appreciate your time coming on today.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.